and one of the first things we wanted was black history, right? Then how could we deny white folks their history? They don't like black history. We built the pyramids, we did this. Them white folks don't want to hear that, right? If they have a right to their history, and anybody that knows the South, when I grew up, and even the generation after me that said they're in their 50s now and all of that, from those people on back, when they talk about the Civil War, it's like my great-granddad, when they talk about Manassas, the Battle of Manassas, right out there in Manassas, Bull Run they called it in history. Bull Run 1, Bull Run 2. In fact, the first battle was Bull Run. Fort Sumter, of course, but Bull Run was big. The people here in Washington, D.C. was out there in carriages picnicking out there by Bull Run. You know, they just rode out for a Sunday ride, and they, all of a sudden, the whole thing goes up. But if white folks want to write about their history, they remember that. It's passed down to them. Okay. And they remember it. It's different than, you can't find nobody who's up in Vermont that they can recite Civil War history like that. It's just not something done in the West and in the North. The people done forgot about it. But down there, they ain't forgot about it. Okay, so that's their culture. That's their history. As we evolve, like we say, you got a statue of so-and-so, put a plaque on that. This is what he did. Malcolm X, we got Malcolm X, we got Martin Luther King, we got all these people. We make a plaque on the other side of the park, and we tell this is what they did, right? Because why would we do the same thing to them? 2 generations, won't nobody know who Robert E. Lee is, even in the South. Because it won't be nothing named Lee, it won't be nothing, right? Okay. I drive through southern cities and I see Martin Luther King Boulevard, even a couple of little streets, Malcolm X, you know what I mean? All right. So in time, we're going to catch up with them on monuments. Do you know the Civil War had 671,000 people die? The most deadly war in American history. By I don't know, by leaps and bounds. It was unbelievable. What if don't nobody in a generation know about that? That this war, Civil War, killed more people than all the other wars combined +2. There ain't nobody, you put them all together, hey, you can't touch this thing here. Therefore, I believe it should be remembered. And if we got a right to put up black history statues, then they can put up white statues. They can put up them people. I mean, technically, it wouldn't be fair. And the other thing, too, is something Mandela did. Do you remember there was this movie, Victus? Nelson Mandela, the rugby team in 1995, Nelson Mandela got to push in the rugby team that won the World Cup in 1995. And all of South Africa was with him. But before, the Springboks, no South Africans, since they were all Boers and white folks, when those people played, the Africans always was for the other team. Whatever, if they was playing Britain, the people would be cheering. If something happened, the people from Africa would be cheering the white folks from another, whatever their team was. They was never for Springboks. So Mandela became, when he became president, they was gonna vote the Springboks out. We're taking away their colors. They don't exist no more. Nelson Mandela told them no. He said that's all they have. If you take the stuff, you know what I mean? If you take the little stuff they holding on to, so he said so he got it to where he got the whole country behind the Springboks. That helped neutralize the white folks that still at that time, 95, they won the election in 94, so they still got the police. They still, to this day, own most of the land in South Africa, right? They definitely got most of the money, right? So you can either fight them and slaughter them, because they're going to make you slaughter them, or you can find a way ease into cooperation, like that type of thing. That's what he did over there. We have to do more here. The point I'm making is that in Act 2, tearing down the statues and all of that, maybe one or two of them, Andy Jackson down there, he was a pretty mean fella. You know, there wasn't no read the Trail of Tears and all that. Yeah, just move him or something. You know, put him out in the woods and let stuff grow all around him. You know what I mean? And then that the people have to hack their way to find out, oh, this Andy Jackson, he's the Trail of Tears man. He's had black slaves, and he was, out of all the presidents, that boy he was pretty brutal. There was plenty of other slave-owning presidents, but this boy was just mean. He was mean. Okay. He wasn't mean just to Americans. He was mean to white folks too. He hung a British general, that man down in Florida, old Andy, he wasn't that nice of a fella. So, but all the other people, they're part of the American experience. They're part of the American, you can't change that story. They already changed it too much already. Suppose we're going to change that story and make it more realistic. That's okay. But don't rewrite the history. If you rewrite the history, history is something that you keep to study. A real or close to accurate description of what happened, right? So now, this is part of the act. This is part of Act 2. Make them acts for things that are useless and unreasonable. If you give it to them, it ain't nothing. All of a sudden, all the big teams and they want to get rid of Aunt your mama. Now, I'm not, you see the serpent stuff we use. I don't support that. And Uncle Ben's never did nothing to nobody. And just to show them for what that's just white folks selling a Negro face. That ain't that, you know what I mean? They ain't got Angel, well, they do have, now most of them Latinos, but they ain't got nobody in the thing cooking. When I come up, most black people were maids and stuff like that. That's what we did. That's what my mama did. That's what everybody I knew, that's what they did. They worked in white folks' houses or on the white folks' farm. Okay? So therefore, they're going to get rid of Aunt your mama. They're going to get rid of Uncle Ben's. Whatever, they got 3-4 more things that ain't nothing. In fact, they're going to have an underground movement of niggas buying up all the Aunt your mama syrup. You know, they're going to make Aunt your mama stuff like dope. You know what I mean? Where you used to buy them gallons down there for $10, now they're going to be $20. And the syrup people is the regular syrup, putting it and they just put a label on there, bootleg. You know what I mean? They're going to triple it, quadruple the price. And niggas going to be buying it because black people all like but it's useless. It don't do nothing. You see what I mean? It don't change nothing. Okay, so let me speed it up. Yesterday, when I came into the house, I heard something on the radio. Everybody was shouting Allahu Akbar and everything, and they kept talking about the Islamic Center of Southern California. Now, on the internet, they were the only people that issued a real statement. The USCMO, whoever they was, they had some statements, or they had suggested khutbahs from way back last month, you know what I mean, to make. And then the Southern California, the Muslims of Southern California, they issued a real statement of solidarity with the marchers. And yesterday, I heard them, and I know that they want, since we had always said that Muslims wasn't showing up. When I got to my house, somebody had told the people in the house, because there's a tradition. When they want me to hear something, they turn the radio up and they turn it to that channel, or they do something, or they leave a little slip of paper, so when I walk in, I can hear Allahu Akbar, and they're giving lectures, we support this, that, and other. I don't know whether it was WPFW, I don't know, but that was Muslims, and they kept mentioning, each speaker would say, the Islamic Center of Southern California, which I know very well. So they wanted me to know that some of the Muslims are, they're participating now. It's a little late, better late than never. You know what I mean? Better late than never. I mean, and remember, our policy has always been, we don't care who say it. In fact, if we want people to say something, we'll say it and say it and say it, and we can almost go home and go to sleep. They're going to say it. The people they want to say it is going to say it, right? We don't need the credit. We just want that issue. And that's what strategic management under conditions of repression is. Strategic management under conditions of repression means you're isolated. You're totally cut off from everything. So how are you going to get your message out? You're going to put your message over here, over there. They're going to pick it up, and they're going to put your message out, and they're going to make sure you don't say it. That's all they want, is to make sure you don't say it. And any credit goes to their people, their speakers. So their speakers will be progressive. We already know that. What's the important thing? Everybody knowing Imam Musa said it, or everybody hearing the message. Of course it's the message. When you study that, that's how we are where we are now. Everybody knows our message, but nobody invites us nowhere. It's okay, right? It's okay. Who cares? That's what strategic management under conditions of repression. Strategic management under conditions of repression is like the way we are right now. The way we are right now is, okay, they manage and they do little things to kind of keep our community, As-Sabiqun, in a certain range. So they do things, the cars out there, parked there. Day before yesterday, it was somebody out there cleaning their car and everything. When I put the food out, I went back to get dressed, maybe 12:30 or something. When I come back, the truck door is open, and the van just parked out there for the last 15 years, not that long. They're open and what have you, to let me know that they disagree with such and such. Now, If people are watching somebody clean their car out there and they see this door open and we're moving, there's visible people around the place, and they ain't never went in those things before, and I come back and I see the door open and this, that, and other. I don't even know if I think I went and closed the truck door and left the other doors open. It don't make no difference to me. But that means that they want to set up a certain way of thinking. I done said something to them that they didn't like. And I'm assuming that the message that I gave, that boss man, we're gonna, I know that you refuse to surrender because we're black and this and that, you know what I mean? Psychological surrender, and that you're having psychological consternations, and on and on and on and on. And somebody in there is mad at that. They get mad at that. Okay, I know what I'm saying then. I know what I'm saying now. And I'm going to measure what goes on after this. But here's the key. They feel they have managed control over what comes in, everything that orbits around. So, strategic management under conditions of repression means, okay, that's what you do. I'm going to manage you according to what your view is of this, that, and other. Therefore, they're not going to have us flat broke on money because they know I work harder. If we get down to a flat broke, that means I'm going to stay up 24 hours a day. I'm going to be around. Because for me, that's abnormal. So they got to have me have enough money where I don't go around a whole lot and raise money, but I don't have enough to do the things that they think that I want to do, right? So I know how they are, and I know, so when I want a vacation, I could take a vacation, because they're going to make sure that I don't have a whole lot of money, right? They're going to take care of that. You're not going to have a whole lot of money because we're managing your money. You're not going to have a whole lot of money, but at the same time, we're not going to have you broke, right? So we're going to make sure we control all you have to do is study how they see you, how they see the environment, right? And then you just cruise right along with it. You arrange, remember, no matter what nobody say, remember, we got them on the hook. They ain't got us on the hook. And we got to look at also the whole global world situation. Where do we fit into this? How do they see us? Hey, the things that they're doing associated with us, they have us as public enemy number 1, 0001. I mean, really number 1, right? And all the institutions show that. It ain't nobody in the world that I know of that have survived and thrived on all of this type of stuff. I just have never seen it. I'm talking about researching it for decades and researching our history. It hasn't happened. So now, what that means with us is, whatever the transformation is, generally it has to be a real evolved process, above and beyond the normal. We really have to Star Trek them, go beyond what any people have gone before. That includes forgiveness, kindness, and all that to the very people that's the biggest troublemakers in the world. They are that. That's what they are. Okay, we know that. Other people, if you see the brothers marching down in Stone Mountain, Georgia, right? It's because they don't have a feel for propaganda and all of that. They don't have a feel for America. They don't have a feel for America because they're part of what we would call the problem. They got them coming in right on Act 2 or 2.5, right? And that's their job, to incite white folks, to justify, to destroy the peaceful, transitional thing that's going on in America. Okay, remember, I believe they're 30% effective on what they're doing. Only 30% effective. They didn't put all this time, they didn't put all this energy into creating this environment, and they're, I believe, only 30% effective. Why do I say they're 30% effective? Look at America. Look at how does the world, can you put a little more chill? Is it getting, look at America though. Now look at how the world sees America, right? I listened to the news this morning. Oh man, this is like, it's pandemonium. I mean, inside of America, the death rate, they are almost at 130,000 people dead.
I saw all these people out, setting up, look at the fireworks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get it.
Well, now, what do some people and what do white folks overseas think about it?
Right.
2 times as many black people die from this virus. 3 times. 1 is 3.6. People of color, especially African Americans, die. So whoever's doing this, why the hell do they care? We're going to lose 1, they're going to lose 3. It's fine with us, right? Who's going to die? The old niggas that's on, we got to feed them and everything. They are either on welfare or they're on right. So we're going to lose them. Good. This is what people are going to think in their mind. Why would America keep doing this? They can think many things. Some are just going to think stuff on the surface, but some are going to think, man, that's a genocide. That's a type of genocide. Now, how are people looking at America? They're looking at America. Remember, America the effective, America the efficient, the Americans who won World War II, the Americans who win the space race, the Americans, and then all you see is pandemonium. It's technically pandemonium. And the white folks is making it pandemonium. I mean, the news, they ain't saying like ain't nothing happening. They're saying, my God, right? The man goes to whatever that place is, Rushmore. Boy, them dictators up there is something. But remember, don't worry about it. See, this stuff we talk is real. It's real. We done already saw what happens to rebellions and stuff. Physical, 90%, 95% chance, is going to happen, right? I don't care whether it's a French Revolution, they cut off what's his name's head. Then the poor lady just said, let them eat cake, and they killed her, Marie Antoinette. I mean, they be guillotining, and once they get started, the guillotine, for a while, they had to just take they call it the reign of terror in France. Equality, egalitarianism, and all that stuff. Boy, you let them people get loose, and they be, that's the historical process. What we see here is that they are 30% effective on their fitna. Now, that don't mean it's exactly that, But what I mean is all the problem that they wanted to cause, they did. Like I say, the Stone Mountain, they down there marching. You see them, the Negroes down the Stone Mountain. They 100 or 200 Negroes with weapons. Yeah, go. Yeah. Okay. But it's whatever it is, it's immature. The propaganda thing, we're winning that. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Proud. It don't make. At least we're not losing. Remember, just like what we said about the Iraq, another Islamic state. We didn't say we was gonna get everything we wanted. We said we're gonna get about 65% of what we want from Iraq. That was, I don't know when ago, 2004, right? That's what the article said. That means we didn't make an analysis. We're not going to get an Islamic state like Iran. We're going to 65% and add up what's been going on in Iraq. Hey, man, that's about what it is. You know what I mean? That's about what it is. Okay, when we say America has only been 30% effective, that means it created or it developed these demonstrations, it managed them along, and the actors are falling into place. You can see the actors falling into place. Like right now, they're easing back into trying to erase the unity, peace, and love stuff, right? And they're into tearing down statues and all of that stuff, which don't make any difference. It don't, you know. In fact, like we said earlier, if we want to build black statues, black history, right, then white folks ought to have, just think, down in Dixie, in 2 generations, don't nobody know about none of those great battles that they had down there. Don't nobody know about Sherman running all the white folks from Atlanta to the sea, where he destroyed, you know what I mean? That boy just wiped, and don't nobody know anything about that, right? Because ain't no statues of nobody that resisted, and what the heck? That whole Sherman's march to the sea, that man walked down in the Dixie with his people, and he just, a whole SWAT of white folks, he punished. That's the first war that punished the people. You know what I mean? One of the first wars that punished the people instead of just the soldiers. You know what I mean? They burned Atlanta. They bombed Atlanta. They bombed all the cities. They destroyed the people's ability to feed themselves and everything. Okay? Suppose you ain't got none of that. And the one group of white folks is there to help the slaves. I mean, to keep the people's slavery. They got some of the slaves that run off and fought against the white. They got all that. Suppose that nobody remembers any of that. We take a Negro Army officer there. We take his. We don't want nobody. Well, they actually, in our history, they wrote that out. Remember, it's only been the last 30, 40 years that you really know about the number of blacks, 200,000, 170,000 that fought in the Civil War. It's a lot of people, right? The average Negro didn't know hardly nothing about it. They didn't even know that it was black cowboys. And the whole Southern Army the Western Army was buffalo soldiers.
The term cowboy is about little black boys.
The whole show, anybody want to holler about history, Deadwood Dick and all them people, them was all, hey man, all our settlements in Oklahoma, not just Tulsa, all our settlements in Oklahoma, all of those black towns down, Hey, man, look. So the point is that they're trying to rewrite history right now. Not trying to, they're right in the middle of it. They're only 70%, they're only 30% successful. Okay, let's look at it in a minute, why we say that. They got something coming on tonight called America, Our Defining Hours. The great moments in American history. You know how they're going to blow it up. That's the way they want. And World War II, and this, that, and the other. And they're going to blow it up. And with this time that they're having right now, they're going to include us in there. Well, don't you worry. You'll barely find us this go round. Yes, you will. Yeah, I already saw some of the scenes. Even right now, when I was watching the thing on Washington yesterday, yeah, I watched the whole 3 hours, whatever, 4 hours, something like that. You know, they always rewriting just a little bit, you know. He's a little more human being. And you know, now they talking about his aide, Jim or whatever it was, his valet. He has a prominent place in history. You ain't never heard of that nigga. George Washington, you ain't never heard of George that had a nigga, you know. He was there all the time. They just mentioning it now because everybody jumping up and down. Okay, don't be mad at white folks for being white folks. And don't be mad at niggas for being niggas. That's what they are, right? So remember, we can't get mad at them for being, that's what forgiveness means, forgive people for being who they are and what they are. You know what I mean? Allah gonna take care of them in the long run, but okay. Look at how the world views America right now. They view America as pandemonium. And our prayer about make America look like a fool, hey man, buffoonery and clown is the order of the day. The man said that 99% of the virus is harmless. Did anybody hear that? Just look on that. Did you see? He just said that. That was the last night or something. I said, no, it's 130,000 people dead. We're reaching real pandemic stuff right now. You know what I mean? Now, this is still the first wave. They messed up. Now remember, this boy, all the numbers they got now are disastrous. It's because of him. You got to go back to work. If you don't go back to work, I can't get reelected. And all of them say that over and over again. That's just clear as it. Okay. The more he do, the more his numbers go down. And he don't stop and say, we got to review this. That boy keep on going. Those are the kind of people that you don't have to worry. What you prayed for, you're going to get. He's going to make sure. And he come out, I was listening to the thing just before I came down here, see. At 12 o'clock, they have all on C-SPAN radio, they have a review of all. So this was not Face the Nation, something like, yeah, it probably was Meet the Press or Face the Meet the Press, huh? One of those. So they asked the doctor, they asked him a whole line of questions he would never answer. Then they asked another doctor, they said, harmless? that's insane. He said this is one of the most deadly viruses in history. This boy is, and he said there are 91 said 99.9%. I know that's almost 100. But 99% is pretty serious. He says 99% harmless. That means if you get this harmless, it means 99% harmless means that every 5 years somebody will die from it or something like that, right? Because it's harmless. And if you get it, you just get a sniffles or something like that. Hey, but see, the other thing is, how is the world looking at this? Remember we went through crisis management before? How does Don stand up for crisis management? He gets a double F, right? Can you imagine? He gets a double F because he failed and he added to the problem. In fact, he get a below, what's below F? No, he failed, but he got to get way down below that. So anyway, he's below failure. Because remember now, he's adding 2. And you know, that's why you can never underestimate the insanity of the people to put up with certain things. They're putting up with it because he's the president. And he can go say, now any other president that we had, if they'd have said, if he said 100 things, if they would have said a half, not a half like 50%, but I mean take 1% and do that. Of what he says, they'd have threw him out. But this boy can say anything and do whatever he wants. That's the guarantee of the dip in America. He's taking it where it can't come back. And that's where we come in. We want to be healers, remember. This period is one of those big periods in history where people that want to play a part in it, the real healing of the world, they got to be big. They can't respond like children and like, you don't like me, I don't like you. You did this to me, right? You got to be mature. I already know who you are. You know what I mean? In fact, probably the best leaders will be some of the victims, the biggest victims. Do you know when I first started thinking of this stuff? 1970 and 1971. I thought of a new world almost like what's now. All the rest of that time, you got to find out how to do it. And you got to become what it'll take to do that. Because in 1970, all I was thinking was, I got all of this stuff and I'm still a nigger. You know, that's a dilemma. Now, most people will say, well, what I do is just try to get more. I say, just a minute. And then I start thinking, how would the farmers produce? We called him Farmer John in those days. How would Farmer John produce in that new world? You know what I mean? How would he, you know, and the type of movies, how would we do in that world? And the first serious thoughts was in 1970, 1971. Because finally I said, well, that's going to be a way off or something. Whatever it was, I left. You know what I mean? And all the stuff that's been going on since then is leading up to this. and the peak of it is Islam. Okay, so let me pick up. Crisis management, I'll get back over here. So, date. Again, what the people want, the goals are out of date, and most of the stuff that they're doing is diversions. So the people will use up the energy that they have, and they won't ever, see, they know that once you put them to sleep, it takes a lot to wake them up again. So their view is, they have done this so many times, now they know we can rile them up, right? They know that down pat, they know, and they decide what the screen is gonna look like, how many acts, da-da-da-da. And remember, all of this, they got most of their actors already in place. Old Sharpton, them, all them people, they already in place. The speakers, like I said, I heard the Muslim speakers from Islamic Center of Southern California yesterday. Like I say, my ex-wife was playing them on the radio. I don't know whether it's WPFW, because if they do it so I'll listen, I'll play like I can't hear it. I'm not hearing it. You know, because that's what they wanted me to hear. She rolls out, and the place she was sitting is abnormal in the house, and it was on there just so I would hear it. Just yesterday, and they, Allahu Akbar, and I'm supposed to be mad and say, they stealing our thunder. They come because what? We done said the Muslims are not out, they're not da-da-da-da. So it went back up the pipeline. Let's bring them out, and to make sure that it heard, one kind of way, we're gonna make sure you hear it. Either they're gonna be upstairs, turn the radio, set the radio on top of you and make it come downstairs where you hear them. No, I've been doing this a long time. I already know what people are gonna do. It ain't no mystery. I mean, I know what, that sounds arrogant, but remember, it's a long story. We done said it too many times. We already know what they're gonna do because we produced that. Why you think we tell them that it ain't no Muslim this, and it ain't no war, and then there they come, right? Why the hell they think, look, strategic management under condition of repression is old. That's way back, that's way back in the 2000s, early 2000s. The article come out in 2009 or something, 8 or 9. So that when it come out, that means this is perfected already. So it had to start around 2000 or something like that, because it takes that many years to perfect or retest the theory over and over again. Right? So if you by yourself, you can't come up with an idea and say this is what's happening. No. Since you got to bounce it off, you got to try it. You know, like testing something, but you got to test it more at certain cases. You got to go over it and over it. Redundancy, we was calling it. Why do you think we was using that word for 10 years, redundancy? I mean, redundancy, redundancy, redundancy. If we say, and it's easy to see, man, they know where the Muslims hiding at, da-da-da-da-da. They ain't said nothing. Man, this and man. And then they're going to go. They already got their people, they Muslims in place. They're going to roll them out. They're going to roll them out. Just like we say, man, the sister this, the sister that, and then they roll the sister out, right? That's why, you know, what is what is. And personally, you know, when King was talking about I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. Right, this is my promised land. I've been in it a long, long time. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a part of the human transition. So, I mean, I don't have to do certain things to be happy, because I'm already happy. Happy and contented. I could go out to California, I could get the barrel of money. I don't get the barrel of money. I'm not going to spend the barrel of money on myself anyway. All I'm going to do is spend it on stuff that for everybody else. And after I die, I don't care if they talk about legacy. I don't care if nobody ever remember me or nothing else. I'm living the life now. When this is gone, I'm gone. I don't have to have nobody sitting around, boy, you remember Musa was sure a bad nigga, boy, right? It's not important, right? So that legacy is another trap. President got to do certain things because of his legacy, right? My legacy, they're going to say, bump your legacy, sucker. Get busy. Do what's right. Do what's right. Now, you got to, everything that we are working toward, the legacy is America the good, right? Do right. Follow the Quran, the Sunnah. What does history say about this? And how do we translate that into what we're doing? What we're talking about now is different. This is not the standard rebellion, transition, da-da-da-da-da. Why is it different? Because we're in a different time, and we done already looked at what works and what don't work. And if something done failed 90% of the time, why would we try to use it? It fails 90% of the time. Well, what are you going to use? Damn if I know. Here's what we'll do, right? We're going to experiment, right? All the stuff we're doing is experimental. But we know that ain't going to work, right? Though we done already looked at those things don't work. And what they talking about, history, it's a done deal. Boss man is already finished. And that's why Allah hired what's her name, sent Don, put him there so he could finish. We thought with George he'd finish it off, but it needed another little more time. See, it's on Allah's time, not our time, right? We say hanging chads. They stole that election, and ain't nobody said nothing, right? And then the other people in the system finally says, oh, Gore, right, he's part of the system. They had one white man, a governor up there. He was head of the Democratic something or other. He was running for president a little bit. In 2000 and 1999, it was a governor, if you mention his name, in 2000. He later became the head of the Democratic committee. Okay. Who? No. I knew it. But here's what he did. I'm just talking about the system. I'll speed up. We don't have to get stuck with him. This man, if you ever heard of the primal scream, he did it. When he realized what they just did to him, he just hollered. But remember, he hollered, but because he's in the system. That is the dirty, they did me. He hollered. They call it almost a primal scream. But he hollered, God, dog, boy. But he's in the system. right? Because, see, the people that they got in the system, they don't know when they going to cut their throat or how they going to, you know what I mean? They playing like Hillary Clinton. She was really getting ready to be the girl president, right? And she didn't know that they had already set up. I don't know, you know, because my husband was president. Then, you know. But they was playing it like, yeah, we're going to have you in the White House again. And she didn't make it. Okay, let me see. I had the governors of Rhode Island or something. I think it was Rhode Island, one of them. Okay. As we said, how to live in the now with the dream. That's what we're doing. Like we said 1970, 1971 is when we started developing the dream. Because by that time we had so much money, we had all the trappings or whatever they said make you happy. And I said, wait a minute. I'm still being treated like a nigga and I got all this stuff that don't fit. So just think the next thing is, well, we have to make a new world. So one of the things about living in the now is like when we told Abdul Malik that he was a police in 1987, okay, we began to live our life as though we never said that. And in a way, he technically forgot. He didn't forget it psychologically. You know, he could write down that Imam Musa said this, but he forgot it in his behavior. And he did his behavior so outlandish, it was on the surface after a while. It was on the surface. I could see him with peripheral vision looking at me with that old kingfish look, and it's okay. But because he had forgot. He hadn't forgot psychologically, but he forgot in his behavior. We're in charge of this. We're in charge of that. And they set up everything to trap me. What was it? Dean. That's his name, Dean. That's his name, Dean. He was a governor of Rhode Island or one of them. Yeah, that was him. Because he became the head of the Democratic Party. And the thing is, once you're in that system, you can't walk out of the system. You're in a club. But it hurt him so bad, he just hollered. I mean, it slipped up on him. He was on TV when he did it. That man hollered. It's like somebody stuck a hot rod in his behind. He was hollering. It was serious. No, he really hollered. I don't know if you ever saw that part. Yeah, he really hollered, right there on. Anyway, how to live in the now with the dream. We got a dream and a vision of where we want to go, but we have to live in the now too. We live every day, and now this gets tricky because it gets good. It gets good. This is very good. Okay. A lot of children. Okay. Heal America. Fix America. That optimism and that dreamy stuff, when you read any people that made a big influence in history, they all had that. There's certain characteristics that everybody had, you know. And I was checking out Simón Bolívar, the Libertador, the liberator. You know, you listening to certain, this is our time. History produces certain da-da-da-da-da, and that was just their time. And he told the white folks from Ireland, he said, you're the first Europeans that ever came to this shore to help, because in his army, he had an Irish battalion. And once they were saying to get into the Battle of Cucuta in Colombia, they had to cross the Andes. So the white folks said, well, Hannibal crossed the Alps. He said, the Andes are not the Alps. And the Andes are not. The Andes are the second highest mountain chain outside of the Himalayas in the world. I mean, hey man, the reason Colombia has a good, from way back in the 20s and 30s especially, they had good airports and air service because it was so many mountains. Colombia. And so 3,000 feet is nothing for a whole chain of mountains in Colombia, in South America. And Simon Bolivar had to cross those mountains. And they all from down the lowland, they got their summer clothes on, you know what I mean, half barefooted. But the attitude of those people. But after the struggle against the Spanish, certain things happened. He thought too big for those people. You know, his idea, I don't know if it was Grand Colombia. Grand Colombia was Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador. It was 6 countries that they have now. All of that was part of Grand Colombia. You know, the same thing happened. They divided it. I didn't understand about Santander province in Colombia till I realized Santander, of course, he was the general that was first with Bolivar, then he broke away. And basically they gave him Colombia and they cut off Venezuela, you know what I mean, divided it up. He wanted Grand Colombia. So everybody that wanted a little piece, right? They could pull off a little piece, and then pretty soon they got their independence from Spain, but they still never had that original idea. And white folks from England, the Freemasons, of course, they backed Simon Bolivar at first. And they asked him one question, for our great favor, could we coin your money and print it? He said, absolutely not. What are you talking about? We'd be servants and slaves. Pretty soon it's all over, you know. He then jumped up with pneumonia in 1830, he died in Venezuela. Anyway, so we had a chance to study rebellions all over the world, everywhere, all of them in detail, what works and what don't work. And what we're doing now, this is a historical innovation. We want to influence the direction of change without forcing people to do whatever we hope they do. That's, if you want to do the impossible dream, that's just about it. I mean, realistically. Because after you get along a certain ways, you almost have to force the issue. And after you are successful, just like if you watched last night, they all had the Declaration of Independence. They fought the Revolutionary War, but they had different ideas about the country. So you get the Federalist Papers. You get some people think we ought to make George the king. In fact, they was telling George, you ought to be, you know, you ought to go on and run for king. right? You only want, so you just go ahead and most of the people would have accepted. That's what they're used to. Hey, right? Okay, and he's going to be generally a pretty good old king. He said, absolutely not. But you get the different people with different ideas. This now, we see this in Iran too. There are different peoples that are very possibly not agents. Not agents. Some of the ones we talk about. To us, they act like agents because of the way they treat us. They treat us that way because they're part of a clique. The ideology of the clique is, this is what we want to do. And you don't always know why they're doing. When they talk about they have moderates and they have da-da-da-da-da, some of those cases are true. That's the way they see it. Some of the people believe, no matter what you do to them, America, we can get along with America. And you could beat them upside the head, you could drag them down the street, and they still believe it. Because that's what they bought into. They bought into that. And they believe another little push, another little help, another little, and they'll love us. Okay?
This is the beginning.
Huh?
Or this is the beginning phase.
Yeah.
Towards that.
All kind of old, all that old junk. Okay. Now we have to deal with those people. Because they got a clique that have power. For us, they're using their power wrong on us. It's not our friends, and we try to tell them what our position is. The more we repeat our position, the more panic they get. Because we say we support the Islamic Republic of Iran. We are not on any team. True. We support Velayat Faqih. They used to say they did, but they don't support it. No, sirree. Not unless one of their men get in the position as Velayat Faqih. But Allah be working it so some of them people, it was one thing, they die off. And you can see all around the country, to do this, what we're doing, you need a lot of experience, a lot of historical perspective, and knowing how the human being acts. And when they act like that, they're not bad. That's just the way they, And in America, remember I was talking about the Whiskey Rebellion? They had that on TV last night. That was it was more serious than I thought. That was ready to bring the government down. 1792. And white folks got a song, I ain't paid no whiskey taxes since 1792. And that's them Peckerwoods right down the street, right over there, and them hills. They really, whiskey is a big thing. I just mentioned one book, and I'll keep going. There's a book called The Alcoholic Republic. It's about the United States. Do you know when you went into court, the judge would take a drink, everybody would take a drink. They would take a slug, you getting ready to go get hung. And they didn't say, you can't have no whiskey in here, you're a convict. No, everybody got to pass the jug around, right? That's right. They call it the Alcoholic Republic. That's the title of the book. You ever read it? That's America. But the Alcoholic Republic, that this thing is based on. And then they're going to have some dummies try to prohibit alcohol in the Alcoholic Republic. That's insane. there's a point that I want to make about this, and then I'll get back to. Before in America, in the early part of the last century, there was the big crime was prostitution and gambling. But after Prohibition started a modern syndicated gangster area. Because Al Capone in 1927 or something made about $720,000 a week. You'd have to know the value of money. In those days, a house cost $2,000. Maximum, a house. It might have been $1,000 then. And if you made $720,000 per week, that kind of money was unknown before Prohibition. You couldn't make that much. There's nothing, you could not make that much money. Then why, when they saw how it was destroying the country, not alcohol, but that hiring all the revenuers to go around and do all of this, they repealed it. Within 12 years, Franklin Roosevelt repealed Prohibition. Okay, the longest war in America has been the drug war. Why they never repeal it? But why the Negroes never got big like the Italians and others got big in those days? Because the police did this on purpose, and they had everything fixed and arranged that every time you get up a certain high, we're going to rake you off to the penitentiary. That's why it ain't no big Negroes. Probably the American gangster guy up in New York probably made the most money in America. Because if he was getting 100% China white heroin in those years, and it seemed like he was getting a couple hundred kilos, the money that they would make was mind-boggling. If he made $1 million a day, it's okay. Probably more than that. No, I mean, not per day. Don't worry about it, because you got to remember, what did they call it? Blue something other? Because blue magic, yeah. Well, it was blue magic because it turned blue. Why? Because opiates and certain chemicals turn blue. If it turned blue, this means it's pretty good. If he was getting, which he was, pure heroin from China. China white's different than Mexican brown. Mexican brown, I don't want to change the subject, I'll get back, is 86%. That's high as you can get. Mexican brown, like brown sugar, you know. But China white, which was coming from Chiang Kai-shek's people, they said that at the beginning of the movie. Y'all just study up who Chiang Kai-shek was. He was a CIA homeboy over in China, Taiwan, Formosa, all of that. Anyway, if heroin on the street is 5%, right? Standard. If his is twice as good as everybody else's, that means it's 10%. Now, in diluting heroin, if you take, we'll call it like nickels. If you cut something 20 times, it's like 20 nickels in a dollar, right? 100%, okay? If you cut it 10 times, it's like a dime, right? So if you got the best heroin on the street, twice as good as everybody else's, you still cut your heroin 10 times. Of course, it comes out to be 11, 10 times. 10 times. That means 1 kilo right, come out to be 10 or 11 kilos. And each spoon, just a regular tablespoon of it, is $100. Good God Almighty. Can you imagine that money? That's why the government, they got one of his accounts as $230 million, $50 million. It was nothing. That's the kind of money. Why no niggas get big? Al Capone them got big. All the other gangsters, the white gangsters, got big. They got so big that they still got the remnants of the mafia now. 100 years, they still got the mafia here. They done kind of messed with them a little bit, but they were useful for a while. The point is, they wanted drugs in the black community. They put them in the black community, and they had a scale. When these niggas get up this high, we're taking them off to prison. Everybody all around the country. Nobody ever got rich. Can you imagine? I'm telling you, in Oakland, one guy, just me, made the whole town rich. The whole town rich. And I still got more money than everybody. After all the pressure, and when they realized what I was doing, first they said, we're going to have this nigga here. He going to sell dope to everybody and run everybody crazy. Because I sold mainly marijuana and cocaine, not crack cocaine. It's not no siree, not no crack. Anyway, it wasn't even out then anyway. Neither was freebasing, it wasn't out that long ago. But here's the point. In one town, I was able to out Martin Luther King to do a whole economic enterprise in Oakland when everybody that wanted to be wealthy and some rich would do it with little or nothing compared to what's the name was getting. I could have did it. If he was getting 200 kilos per shipment at 100%, let's say I was getting 1 kilo at 86%. And just running the gamut, the kind of money and the destruction that those drugs have done to our community, I don't care what they say. I was in the front seat watching everybody and adding it up. Why no big enterprises, right? If we'd have just took the money and reinvested it in the black community, why you didn't get a chance to reinvestment? Lawyers, bail bondsmen, right? Taking all the money out of the community and it doesn't circulate. The only difference with ours, we circulated it, just like we say. Anyway, to get back to the point, they have a scheme. On us, it worked. They have a scheme now. It's not going to work. The drug thing worked 100% plus on us. The scheme that they're doing now, let's say 30%. 30%. And I'll try to move toward a close. Everything that they're doing is failing. Therefore, we have to play what part do we want to play? We can play a part in healing America and helping fix America. Or just let it go down and every time it slips a little, we'll grease the pole, it'll slip faster. It's going down. That's not even a discussion whether it's going down or not. That's not exceptionalism. And anybody, Bill Clinton said on TV when he was talking about Washington, anybody that They've been betting against America all along. Anybody bet against America, they usually going to lose. Not this time. This is this is a historical, all the stuff before the wind was at his back, before the murder and destruction. When Allah got you going uphill, you're going to go. When you get at the top of your stuff and you start going down, you're going down. That's the pattern of history. And nobody has been able to change that. This is America now, but remember, America is made up of people. That's the difference. America is made up of people. The world is made up of people. And if we can put things right here, that means it's actually possible to have a good world where the shaitan don't run things. I'm running this. Well, he just have his regular little 10 or 15% fitna, you know what I mean? Break up a few marriages and run a few people crazy. But the general 80% of the system and society and people will be good, basically good. That's where we're headed. So that's why the stuff we talk about is a new approach. It's experimental. Ain't nobody tried it before, right? Everybody is rebellion, revolution, and we're going to all that. That's all they talk. Okay. But this go round, that's why it's such a challenge. It's not a challenge. If you add up the numbers, you wouldn't even try it, right? The possibilities of doing this, it'd be like Donald Trump's numbers, 99.9. You know what I mean? Right? Tell the truth. The chance of that happening, right? But that's what the challenge is. This is what Islam, once Islam kind of reshape you a little bit, that's where it puts you. Hey, it's possible. What was the possibilities of Islam taking over in Mecca? 0.99 point something of the same thing. It just wasn't possible. It wasn't possible. And everybody getting all their money, it's like now, everybody getting all their money from what's happening now, right? All the phony stuff. Everybody got all their money then because of the idols and the, right? And everybody got all their money. That's what made Mecca. It wasn't nothing in Mecca but desert. Right? Tell the truth, that's desert. And that's all they had. And that brought everything there from all that. Oh man, we're going over to Mecca and we're going to be Becca, whatever they call it, Yathrib. Anyway, instead of reviewing crisis management, we won't do that today. Millions die of buffoonery. Buffoonery, it kills millions of people. If you want to save human lives, animal lives, the life of the earth, you have to fix this thing. Buffoonery hurts, man. Them clowns like George Bush and them, they go to Iraq, they just slaughter all them people. The Russians go to Afghanistan, the Russians kill 10% of the population with them helicopters. That's 1.6 million people in them days. Right? And everybody they didn't kill, Americans came to kill the rest of them the last 18 years, 17 years. Actually, we got a pretty good job here if you just was, you know what I mean? If you just signing up, I want to sign up for the New World Project. Huh? Actually, it's easy, it's fun. Because the only thing they can do to us is psychological stuff. They can't, right? They can't do nothing to nobody, because if they do, everybody will, well, what was Musa talking about? And they'll go read, look at all of this stuff, and they'll say, and then they sure will be in trouble then. That's the martyr thing. So we knew about the martyr thing. Why they can't kill, or they won't kill nobody, or they'll make them a martyr. Well, we had to just mosey along. Remember, we were making all these CDs, all these DVDs. Do you know we got CDs and DVDs in sections? Strategic management, we might have a whole series of those. Man, we got so many educational points. And remember, all our stuff is repetitive, but it's inspirational. It all centers around the transition and the need for transition. But anyway, so this, whatever happens here will be a new approach. And this is experimental. It's experimental. Not only is it experimental, we want to recruit a large number of participants. We want to get the SS, some of the SS on our side, the Gestapo. We want some of them with us. It's insane, but it's good, right? There's only, well, then how are we going to do this? So you can sit up and think all day. That's one thing about it. I do have all the time in the world to think. And I don't think about, this is all I think about. When I'm walking, I think about this stuff. And I say, well, you need a breather. So I take a few minutes just maybe watching TV. But it ain't gonna do no good because I got my paper, pencil and paper there. And if I'm watching TV, it doesn't make any difference. I'm still writing. If I'm watching a dumb cartoon, which I don't, it don't make no difference. I'm gonna put, all this stuff comes from watching TV yesterday. And it's good stuff, right? So after you get busy, you cannot not learn. You cannot not learn. And it's usually pretty deep. So yeah. Right.
Because when you talk to people and either you're trying to encourage them or they let you know where you're coming from,
Right.
the first thing they say, well, what's your plan?
Right.
Yeah, people want answers to the problem. They know it's a problem and people want,
Right.
okay, if you talking, basically they saying, oh, you talking all that stuff, then what's your plan? Now, you know, to explain everything up to what you've been talking about over the years to this point, they really don't want to. They really don't want. To me, they really don't want to participate. They just want an immediate answer.
Okay. Well.
But to your
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
you said this is experimental.
It's experimental. You got the whole world in pandemonium. You want a pro-pandemonium or pro-fix-it plan for global pandemonium. That's, the world is doing that right now. But we always break it down for the first stages. For our first stages, we said nonviolent resistance. It's okay, nonviolent resistance. It's very simple. Now the platform is simple if you follow it, but you got to transform yourself just to do that. If we say, okay, we're not going to call the police in our neighborhood. Well, you got to get the church and the masjid all organized to do the work of Jesus and Muhammad, peace be upon them, right? You got to get, they got to start doing some of that. But the preachers don't even think like that. You see what I mean? Here's the point. Nonviolent resistance, alternative resistance. If you got a team at the church that handles domestic violence and what have you, and they're on call, you know what I mean? remember, they're into the service of God. They're not just working on their job. Okay, and you got a team. They have technically been trained in school to the best of the teachers and trainers' ability to handle domestic violence. So there's somebody, guy beating his wife, or his wife beating him. Nowadays they be doing the other way, both ways, right? So, or she can pour some hot, what's the name on him? The old time girls, they talk about all that violence. They used to use oatmeal and grits and stuff like that. That stick on your body. Suppose you laying down there, you done busted somebody upside the head. That's fine. And then a nigga he doing that same scream old Dean did. They be hollering. See, y'all, I don't know if y'all come up during that time, but them niggas would be hollering, boy, like hollering. Hot grits, boiling hot grits. They grits, they stick on your skin. Hey, man, especially them women down there in Canada, them get you women, I'm not against nobody. Down there, right down the street, South Carolina, out on them islands, right there, they got the barrier islands all down there. They can't speak English any good, and they be bringing that old stuff from Africa and burning niggas. Hey, man. Anyway, so domestic violence, right? Think about it. It's a perfect solution. The church do that. They don't call the police. The police are killing a Negro. Homelessness, there they are. Imagine the churches. Just imagine the churches. Homeless problem solved. If they could use just the auditorium next to the church or something like that, right? Or the basement. If you got all the churches participating, that's the purpose of the church in the old days. You didn't have no welfare, didn't have no, right? When you needed, that's what zakat, sadaqah, those are the institutions that, like the Quran say, to prevent the circuit of the money around with the rich. That's what it said. That we get a piece of that. So all those institutions are there. When I'm talking to my old friends as preachers, they just don't get it. You mean, and they got them BMWs and Benzes out there. You mean that instead of having fundraisers for the senior choir, that's what they say, $50,000, that's all we need for the senior choir, for their new uniforms, their new dress stuff, it's a little old measly $50,000. You mean we would feed niggas with that? We would actually, well, that's what Jesus would do, right? Isn't that what, yeah, but man, that was a long time ago. They got all this stuff. They, see, just now, it's not the preachers either. Imagine, this is Sunday, right? Imagine Church ABC right around here. We're gonna fill it up with homeless people. Do you think they want them people that's dirty, got bugs on them and everything, hanging around in that church? Absolutely not. It's ingrained. The people then left religion. So if we can get people back to, call it religion, call it deen, if we can get people back to functioning on a 20% level, that's the homeless problem solved. Homeless is solved. Okay, domestic violence is solved. Drug treatment, we got way more treatment available. Again, the counseling, the treatment, the assistance, the places to stay, all of that. We can do that. That's stage one. That's just stage one. Stage one takes a total transformation in how we think. You see what I mean? Just to do that, okay? But that's no more police brutality. Why? You saying we ain't calling the police. We're not going to stand there and beg them not to beat us up. We're not going to use them. And then, with drugs being legalized later on, you just won't need them. That was a time when you didn't have all them polices. There was a time when police was not trained to SWAT teams and all of that. For civilians, for people, you got to have a damn SWAT team. Yeah, and I know it because I open the masjid door and I look out there. That's the first thing I see is a SWAT team. And that's what all the literature says, right? It was a SWAT team. There's a military vehicle in front of the masjid. Okay? If they want to talk to somebody, all of that, why they don't call me? They all know that that doesn't happen, right? Most of the people, if they didn't heard anything or they didn't passed out flyers, we went to Dar al-Hijra 2, 3, or 4 times. It wasn't to convince them of nothing. It was to let them know. Now you know. We don't have to come back here over and over again. Whenever we go somewhere, it's to let everybody know. They see the picture. They can't say they ain't heard about it. They can't say they don't know. Okay? Anyway, just to get to step 1 is a transformation. But again, we feel like it's possible, and we feel optimistic. Again, the outside view of America. America done lost losing its power. The only thing it can do now to people is bully them or push them around. Okay, and it's accelerating that they got to push people around. That love for America, American institutions, it ain't there. Oh, there's few people still want to come, but that's their problem. Okay, process of reasoning. Process of reasoning. That's what we've been talking about. The process of reasoning is how do people come to the conclusions that they come to? What's their reasoning and their thought process? Okay, so a lot of it has to do with how the system sees us and how the system sees itself. What we call things right now, we call it panic reasoning. Panic reasoning. It basically don't make no sense. And Don is the leader in panic reasoning. He don't do nothing that makes sense. When it's time for a system to go down, a lot of times send the agent to bring it down. One thing about it, America cannot get back. They have been brought so low by their continuous behavior for the last decades. Remember, they didn't win in Korea. If we go by wars, they didn't win. There's a ceasefire. Okay. They didn't win in Vietnam. And that was a terrible war. That was just ridiculous. Some people ask me, did you go to Vietnam? Because I talk about it, they think maybe I was there. I said, man, you got to be crazy. I had enough sense then to know, plus I was in and out of jail. I couldn't get drafted. You know, I couldn't get drafted because they didn't even have a draft card because they go in and out of jail and they don't want you. I will tell you this, in 1962, like the other dummies in the area, I went down to the draft board to try to, because they had, that was the days when Castro was doing stuff in Cuba. I said, I'll go over there and fix it. I went down to the draft board, you believe it or not, to sign up. I was a dummy, 17. And I acted so bad. It wasn't like Malcolm, I'm gonna go kill up some crackers, when they had him sign up. You remember in this book about it? But it was kind of like that. I was just unruly, so they wouldn't take me, and I'm just glad they didn't take me, because I would have been a damn fool. Instead of going I could have went in the Army instead of going back to the penitentiary, and it wouldn't be like this. Whatever it is, this is the way I'm happy with it, being just like it is now. Anyway, panic reasoning. I'll speed up and close up. I'll deal a little bit deeper later on with the process of reasoning, how people come to the conclusions that they come to. But it's centered around how they see us and how they see themselves in relation to us. We don't have time to deal with that right now, but we have come across panic reasoning. When your reasoning is based on panic and fear, it's panic reasoning. And that's what you have right now. The whole thing is just one big panic after another. When them white folks sit there on the news, they said we have 129,000 people, and they starting to, wait a minute now. See, remember, when you get to 100,000, 1 million is next, right? So they're thinking like, and this fool is saying, shoot, that stuff ain't harmful, 99.9% fine. Nah, that damn fool, his whole crew went to Oklahoma. Remember to scout out this thing? They got the virus. And then the whole other, he getting everybody killed. And the people are saying, man, and the news commentators, they don't say, well, Fox News do, but everybody else, they ain't got nothing good to say about him, but they scarified. The Congress is scarified. Everybody is scarified, and they're going to solve the problem with a vote. Well, that's too bad for them. It's just, you know what I mean? This is panic behavior, panic reasoning. Crisis management, we'll go over that at another time. Compartmentalized reasoning, we'll go over that at a little time. Global reasoning. Global reasoning is what we do, what we're doing right now. We're not isolating ourselves here in the U.S. because the statement we always make, if we'd have solved the race problem 60, 70 years ago, it'd have been fine, because the system was still functioning, right? Now you can solve the race problem, you haven't did nothing. You ain't did nothing. So what? What about the climate? What about everything? The education? All right now, this has to be a transformation. We talk transformation. Transcendence, you got to, transition, you got to get above all of this. So when we take the first step in this, that means that we almost home. If we can just get to the first step of using our churches, our mosques, our synagogues, and all of that for their original purpose as a refuge, right? Okay, that'll be the very beginning. And then if we can get one or two of them to crack the ceiling, they'll tell the rest, hey man, how good, this is good, man. This is good. If this wasn't good, I don't know, I wouldn't be trying to do this if it wasn't good. If I wasn't souped up and juiced up and like I say, I'm already in my utopia, so I don't need nothing else. Whether this is a success or faith, that doesn't have anything to do with me, because I'm trying to do right what I. So I'm definitely, I'm telling you, I'm contented. I'm in my promised land because that's what I wanted. But I wanted to play a part in history. I wanted to do this. So that's what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm doing. We don't have no, we got to influence 525 million people, right? That's not part of real success. Global reasoning, Balkanization of the world against the USA. You know the Balkans, where they, during World War I, they got blocked in on, one place or another. Balkanization is what they call it. The world is being blocked in against the United States. You could see it. So we call it balkanization of the world against the United States.
What it seems like they were trying to do to the world.
They did that, and it's not, it gets old, you know what I mean? They still harmful, okay? All right. That's basically it for today. Are there any questions? Are there any comments at all? Did anything come over the wire, people?
Yeah, I had a message. This was a follow-up message from the Handpicked Negroes class we did the other day. So I guess the brother that had sent those long messages last time, he has some more time to kind of put his he has some more time to put like I guess his question together in a more clear and concise way. It's still a little bit long, but I'm gonna read down what he basically had to say. Inshallah,
Okay,
give
sure.
my response. Assalamu alaikum. I was listening to a live feed of yours the other day, Handpicked Negroes, may I recall correctly. However, my heart was completely saddened by some of your statements about fellow Muslims. The reason being is due to the fact that I have been thinking and praying for us to be able to have a national imam, shura, etc., for the pleasure of Allah, inshallah. Allah advises us to not be divided amongst ourselves, have taqwa, enjoying what is right and forbid the wrong. 20 steadfast Muslim believers may overcome 200 disbelievers. We believe in the fact that all of Allah's promises are true. Then what is going on with us? Allah's perfected the deen, so it's apparent we are not adherent to. You never mention no names, but who you are referring to need to be addressed specifically by you with the knowledge you have about them, inshallah. Why? Allah advises us to give admonition in case the admonition benefits the listener. Aki, we are advised as well as that of Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is within their own souls. We are a people who have experienced unique circumstances and been conditioned in error. However, as you are, Islam is a cure for all. As you are aware, Islam is a cure for all. I know that personally I too have been confused a long time, hurt myself, family, etc., due to the fact of taking on characteristics of the oppressor and not even knowing it. That's been even after thinking I was a Muslim. I realize now I was not, or at the time I had the clear characteristics of a hypocrite and didn't even know it. Similar as explained in the Quran, chapter 2, verses 5 through 12, I'm just a brother who believes in all of humanity, need of Allah's and our brother's help. Allah had advised that I am not self-sufficient. We need each other in the ways that Allah has informed us. May Allah will for you to read this with an understanding that it is Allah's will that you received it, and who it is that is sharing and is in need of your help, in the ways that you may help for the pleasure of Allah. Inshallah. Love you, Aki, for the pleasure of Allah. Alhamdulillah, Rabbi Alameen.
Okay. Well, that's a little long, and to remember. This is a very unique situation. Do you remember when we had the manna program here, and when we looked in the sink down there, there was it looked like a 20-ounce, a soda top, a 20-ounce with the top cut off, soda just let a little. When you talk about unity, we've been a part of many of the unity projects on a high level. The only thing is we have been excluded from those projects. We have here. As time go on, you'll see the types of people. I have seen people who are great comedians, and next time you see them, they're in a movie playing along with some other people, playing detectives and all kind of people that they're actually following up the system on what the system tells the people we are. Those same people might have called me and said, now don't raise any money for, his father might have been martyred. He's telling me don't raise any money for it. Then that person's wife, who's from Africa, might call me and say, my husband don't even have a gravestone. And I think you was at the funeral of one of these brothers. It was about 3,000 people there. Did anybody make any announcement about for the community, and it's 3,000 people there. If everybody gave a penny, they'd have still had $30,000 to take care of the, remember, this is not the richest community, it's one of the poorest. So their rent, their utilities, I paid the utilities for 1 month, and they was $400, for whatever money it was. The point about believers and the ayats that you've mentioned, we're dealing with a unique group of people here in America. Especially, first of all, the shaitan has a free reign almost with human beings in general, even with the Muslims. Now here in America, we're dealing with a human being that have been enslaved physically and psychologically for over 400 years. And what we see so far, those slaves act in accord with what's healthy for their slave master. And anyone that comes and tries to readjust that balance is created is usually the bad guy. If they could even last long enough to even make the attempt to improve the practice of Islam amongst the Muslims and for the American people in general, an improvement in their daily lives, which that's our mission of Islam. There are many ayats that discuss some of the same things that you've been mentioning. And if you see the enemy, it's from what we call Sabata, Obey Allah, obey the messenger, that you may be successful. Or when you see a group of people, stand firm, steadfast. Sabata is the word, firmness, steadfastness. And then on top of that, uh, there's some words like rihu. Re is wind. Never be divided amongst yourself. No, technically it says, do not fall into argumentation unless the wind, basically it's saying the winds will go out of your sails. Your strength will depart. That's basically what it says. The strength will depart from you. So you should adopt the policy of sabr. Sabr means to check, to tie, and to contain. Self-control, all of that stuff. So we ask you to overlook our inabilities and to try to stretch your understanding as far as you can, as far as what the real job is to do this job. It's a big deal. And technically, sometimes we mention names of people who we're talking about, and sometimes we don't. We have to make decisions constantly. And you know, this thing varies. This thing varies, it's not static. Sometime you might come in here and you want to spill the beans on everybody. You want to correct the whole thing. And you don't say nothing because you know if you talk under those conditions, the shaitan going to be influencing you. So you may change the subject sitting right here. As soon as you sit here, you change the subject. Why? Because long range, endurance, stickability, protractedness is what it takes to do this job. Okay, but in the process you really acquire a lot of, a lot of basic skill. And we ask Allah's forgiveness and your overlooking those levels that we have not attained yet, which is basically true. If we would have attained it, we would have solved the problem already, right? I mean, we could do it, just like that. In the meantime, if you want to participate with us in this, by the time you're around 2, 3, 4 weeks, you will have evolved in a hurry. I'm talking about, no, it's easy. I'm not making fun of you or nothing. I'm not doing that. But you get involved in trying to do this stuff physically and psychologically and emotional training, religious background training. Hey man, you're gonna have to become a real live gorilla. After about a year, whether a year is too long, but if you just get 2, 3 months of this right here, what we're doing right now, you will see the world. In fact, if you don't believe it, ask anybody. After you get a couple of weeks of this, you say, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, because it didn't, until you get a chance to get your feet wet, get a handle on this. Hey man, the reason Islam became the primal or original or biggest or one of the best ways of life in the world is because it's true. Try and implement it with the greatest powers, physical powers on earth, all doing everything they can to divide you up, divide, conquer, and rule. And you're sitting here with nothing to offer to people except torture, Winston Churchill, blood, sweat, and tears. You can't offer nobody no house. You can't offer them no job. You don't have nothing to give them except, hey, how about giving this a try? And then they look at what you're talking about. They say, hey, man. And then, there's hadith about the fire, and if people got to look in the fire, they say, man, ain't nobody gonna go there, right? Then they look over in paradise, and they see what's surrounding paradise. They say, I don't think nobody's gonna make it there, right? That's the hadith. Because once they see what's surrounding paradise, good, humane, just simple thing like climate change. You have to be an idiot not to know that climate is changing and it's the human being that's doing it.
And it's affected by it.
Yeah, you're affected by everything, right? So mobilize the people to fix the climate. Just clean up the rivers, clean up the air, Everything that you start on doing is going to be less money. Everything that you do is less money. For instance, if you say, well, I'm a married guy and I don't want my wife to work and I want my wife to raise children, but you don't have two salaries. You don't have one salary. Less money. 80% of the arguments in the world, or at least over here, is about money, right? So you can make a decision. Try to make a decision to influence the direction of change here in America, and get a feel for what it takes to do that. Now, personally, I'm going to say this. Just to get here, hey, man, I don't know if you've been listening to the tapes. I'm thankful to Allah, personally, to allow me to be where I am. And I mean, you wouldn't believe it. Okay, so if we name everybody, that's what we'll be doing. We'll be naming, everybody. Maybe one or two slip by. You have to understand that. What it takes to do this type of thing, to have this type of attitude when the system has everything in its hands, and it does it, and it shows you. We can beat you upside your head. We can take your money. We can unscrew your cars. We can do technically that and another zillion other things, which we do, right? Yeah, so if you find a few flaws here and there, we just make do. We're trying to improve. I hope I've answered at least some of your questions. But I tell you, we just need more help. So if you ever feel like joining a movement, welcome aboard. We're actually in a recruiting thing right now, and we say to everybody, welcome aboard. Any of y'all want to give it a try? See what it is. See if I'm lying or not. I might be making this up. You won't know till you try. Yeah, give it a try. If we just sitting up here talking out the side of our mouth, join up, give it a try. See, you ever see the Bride of Frankenstein? Her hair was standing up on her head when they shot her. That's the way a nigga's hair will do. When he get involved with this, eyes wide open. I mean, that girl was, you ever see that child? That child was, that's the way. I'm telling you, I ain't making, look, if you're not buckled down pretty tight and semi-serious, this stuff, and with complexities, you have to have a sense of humor, an unbounding sense of humor. You can't take nothing personal. I mean, and back